Welcome to the Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. 3 chances to win coming up today. Once at 4 o'clock for our Take the Trip or Keep the Cash. A bonus giveaway at 4:45. And our good news giveaway at 5:45, as always. But before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
Stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
There are 3 movies that scare the crap out of me. Not because they're horror movies, but because they could happen. One of them is good. 2 of them are not great. But there is a theme that runs through all of them, and if you've seen them, you're going to know exactly where I'm going. I've mentioned this one before, The Siege, with Bruce Willis, Denzel Washington, and Annette Bening. What's The Siege about? Oh, by the way, all of these. No, 2 out of 3 of these, pre-9/11 movies. 2 out of 3 of these movies, pre-9/11 movies. The Siege is about terror attacks in New York City. Denzel Washington is an FBI agent trying to hunt down terrorist cells. They have to bring in the Army, which is run by Bruce Willis as a general. Annette Bening is a spy for the CIA, and they're trying to stop terror cells in New York. It was too realistic. And it's too realistic for a kid who's growing up in Manhattan, who is about to spend a year in Israel, who spends his days, like all other Jewish kids going to Jewish private schools in New York, saying prayers for people who are victims of terror attacks in Israel. Because that was when things were ramping up for the Second Intifada, when over 1,000 people were killed by radical Islamic terrorists in Israel. And they don't care if you're Jewish, and they don't care if you're Muslim, and they don't care if you're Christian. It's just you're in Israel, we're going to kill you. That movie is horrifying. And that movie, I remember afterwards trying to describe to people what 9/11 was like in New York City after 9/11. I said, go watch The Siege. You had the Humvees on the freeways, you had the Humvees on the bridges, you had the Army everywhere, Grand Central Station, everything. It was just like that movie. Some of you probably remember it. That movie scared the hell out of me, and it came out in the late 90s. The next one, and Mike's going to laugh because this was not a good movie. The Peacemaker with George Clooney and Nicole Kidman, where they have to stop some Bosnians from bringing a nuclear weapon into, wait for it, New York City. And it's a backpack nuclear weapon. And I remember watching this movie, and this is before 9/11, this terrible movie, which we only went to because Nicole Kidman was in it, and she was in a bathing suit at the beginning of it. That's the only reason. Oh, and there was this one cool scene where George Clooney's standing on top of, were they missiles, bombs, or whatever, when the truck falls away, but he's in the helicopter and he's standing. You know what I'm talking about, right? Trailer's like, okay, well, I get to see a little Nicole Kidman and maybe some action. Terrible, terrible movie. But I remember all the hoops this guy has to jump through to get the nuclear backpack bomb into Manhattan and how they have to stop him. And I remember saying, you know how easy it is to get one of these things into Manhattan? You don't have to walk miles through the desert and then walk across a border here. You don't have to do any of that. Do you have any idea how easy it is? Once again, a pre-9/11 movie. This is the nightmare scenario. Some lunatic with a dirty bomb in a backpack. Third movie, which was after 9/11. The Sum of All Fears, one of the Jack Ryan movies. Now, the book is infinitely better. Infinitely better. The movie itself is meh, shall we just say. Ben Affleck, not the problem. Morgan Freeman, not the problem. The problem was the plot. The bad guy's more interesting in the book. In the book, Palestinians have finally figured out, let's not be terrorists and let's try and make peace with Israel through peaceful protests. And then Israel's kind of forced to make a peace deal with them because it's peaceful protests. But one radical decides to put a nuclear bomb and blow up a city in America. That's not what happens in the movie. It's a bunch of neo-Nazis, which makes no sense whatsoever. The bad guys make no sense in that movie, and it kind of degrades the movie a little bit. But once again, oh, well, we had to find a bomb in the desert from the 1973 Israel war, and we found this bomb, and we reclaim this bomb, and we take it apart, and we sneak it inside a thing, and we smuggle it in a vending machine into a baseball park in Baltimore to try and kill the president and blow up Baltimore. You don't need to get that complicated. You really, really don't. So if these are the three nightmare scenario movies, I want you to hear a real-life story that went live this morning. And it might shed some light on why all of a sudden Donald Trump gave a 2-week timeline to Iran to make a deal, or he's going to take the chain off Israel. Donald Trump's administration is boosting efforts to monitor potential Iran-backed cells in the United States linked to the terrorist group Hezbollah, as the president is weighing options when it comes to striking the terror regimes in nuclear facilities, according to CBS News. The outlet said, citing sources familiar with the matter, that FBI Director Kash Patel has been ramping up efforts to identify and monitor any Iran-backed cells linked to the terrorist group Hezbollah. The efforts had been pursued since Israel's attack on Iran earlier this month in Operation Rising Lion. So what does Hezbollah have to do with all this? Well, listeners of the Ari Hoffman Show and people who study history know that Hezbollah is a proxy of Iran. Iran doesn't like to get its hands dirty, so it has its proxies do the dirty work. And Hezbollah, when they chant death to Israel, they're also chanting death to America, just like Iran, just like Hamas, just like the Houthis, just like all of them. Iran has previously threatened to come after U.S. officials who were involved with the assassination of Iranian military head Qasem Soleimani. Do you remember who gave the order to take out Qasem Soleimani? Let me give you a little reminder. He died like a dog. We took him out. We killed him. I'm the best president ever. The world is safer. Donald Trump took him out, which means Iran and Hezbollah want to kill Donald Trump. And let's not forget, contrary to what Tucker Carlson says, we do have 3 people who are in custody on federal charges for trying to kill the president of the United States on behalf of Iran. Last year, there was an Iranian operative with the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and 2 people in the U.S. who were charged with plotting to assassinate those who are critical of Iran. The assassination plot included President Trump. Now, what I am concerned about is that the FBI might need those 2 weeks. Why? Don't forget, we've had 150 days of the Trump administration? That's it, 150 days. And what do we say all the time about this administration? Drain the swamp. Drain the swamp. Lock her up. No, I'm drain the swamp, right? That's what we get all excited about. But you realize how long that takes? We may have all these people we like running all these agencies. Do you know how deep the swamp is? Do you know how many bureaucrats are there? Here's something else. I get press releases all day long. And I was so happy when I saw people I liked becoming the heads of these agencies. I said, I'm signing up for all the press releases. I want them from every Trump agency. I want it from I want it from the FBI, and I want it from the AG, and I want it from the Department of Homeland Security. I want it from the CIA. I want the Department of Agriculture and the EPA. Give me everything. Give me the juice. Give me all of it. And I read these things every day. And the scariest ones are the FBI ones. The FBI ones I read, soldier from JBLM convicted of working with China, terrorism this, terrorism that, it's already here. It's already here. I told Mike this 2 or 3 days ago. I don't think I discussed it on air, but I definitely said this 2 or 3 days ago. I said the nightmare scenario is not that Iran launches a ballistic missile at the U.S. I'm not so worried about their ballistic missiles. We've seen that they get shot down by Israel pretty easily. Out of the hundreds that they have sent, I think 25 have made impact in Israel. Maybe. That's it, by the last count. I'm not so worried about that. I'm worried about them activating a terrorist cell in the U.S. because the Ayatollahs are desperate. And I think that this move of delay is part of it because they don't know where all these guys are. How much time was spent by our FBI surveilling you, surveilling me, surveilling anybody in conservative land or any parents who didn't like hypersexualized critical race theory curriculum in their schools, and what weren't they doing? What weren't they looking for? How many blue cities and states out there have refused to work with federal investigators? Have refused. How many radical judges out there are releasing criminals, but not just criminals, actual terrorists? On Friday, today, a federal judge, according to Fox News, ordered anti-Israel activist Mahmoud Khalil to be released on bail while his immigration and civil cases proceed through the courts, citing the extraordinary circumstances of his case. What's extraordinary about it? He led a riot that took over a building in Colombia, trapping janitors who are Hispanic and black inside who had to fight their way out of the building. He targeted minority groups on campus, and he did so while praising Hamas, giving out their propaganda. And the second he walked out of that courtroom today, what's the first thing he did? Wrapped himself in a terrorist keffiyeh. We are our own worst enemies. What are the extraordinary circumstances? The guy is terrorist aligned, violated the terms of his student visa, of his guest visa, of every other paperwork he has, is shilling for a terrorist organization. And some judge let him loose? And people are cheering his release? We're releasing the terrorists. And then you've got the online information war. So you know how all week I've been talking about this fight with MAGA? And I've been saying something doesn't smell right about it. You've got Marjorie Taylor Greene. You've got Matt Gaetz. You've got Tucker Carlson. You've got Steve Bannon and a few others. But for the most part, every poll is saying that the majority of Republicans agree with what Israel's doing to Iran. The majority of Americans agree with what President Trump's doing with regards to Iran. So why are some of the people seen as the biggest MAGA supporters on the other side, and why does it seem like they have so many followers? Because their views are fringe views, saying we shouldn't take out the nuclear reactors in Iran. We're not asking for regime change. We're not asking for boots on the ground. Nobody's asking for boots on the ground. Nobody. In fact, President Trump even said that today.
Aerial campaign in Iran enough, or do you need ground forces?
Well, I'm not going to talk about ground forces. The last thing you want to do is ground forces.
The last thing you want to do is ground forces. We all agree with that. We all completely agree. So what are these Looney Tunes on our side of the aisle screaming and yelling about? And who's amplifying them? I've noticed a lot more bots coming on my pages recently on social media. A lot more nameless, faceless accounts that don't really post anything of their own. They just go off attacking people or retweeting stuff. And the New York Post answered why today. Russia and Iran are targeting the Make America Great Again movement and trying to destabilize the right from within. Both rogue states are using tens of thousands of social media bots to amplify untrue voices and opinions, masquerading as MAGA loyalists to cause chaos and confusion and question U.S. leadership. The bots are automated software applications that mimic human activity on social media. They are used to amplify real-life influencers who post untrue false flag narratives designed to discredit President Trump and his conservative stalwarts, according to a bombshell new report from the Network Contagion Research Institute, a politically neutral nonprofit who study extremism on the web. Quote, if you talk to Republicans right now, more than 80% of them support the war against Iran. But if you go on Twitter, you get the sense that there is a civil war raging. This is exactly the purpose of the psychological operation, to destabilize people's perceptions of institutions that are supposed to protect us. The bots make it look like extreme posters have tons more support than they actually have, which helps to persuade other real-life viewers that what they are posting is legitimate. The bots are innocuous, average names, have profiles which make them appear as average Americans. NCRI says after domestic attacks, including the Uvalde school shooting, Matthew Crook's assassination attempt on Donald Trump, and the murder of 2 Israeli embassy staffers in Washington, D.C. in May, it noticed an alarming trend of false flag reflex. Within minutes of initial reports, the events are recast as evidence of a hidden conspiratorial plots obscuring the true motives and perpetrators. In the days following these crimes, Kremlin-affiliated propagandists and Iranian state-linked media are able to rapidly inject narratives that are taken up by MAGA imposter influencers who then inject them into MAGA-branded spaces. The group points to Draven Noctis, a real person and U.S. veteran who frequently contributes to Russian state media and has a potential reach of 2.4 million with more than 180,000 followers on X. Quote, It's so expensive in the U.S. and Canada that even refugees can't understand how we make it, says Noctis, who sometimes reverses his first and last names online in a 2024 TikTok post while describing the U.S. as a slave system designed to impoverish its own citizens. We are free-range humans in an open-air prison of taxes and BS distractions, and we think it's completely normal. In an earlier post on Eurasia Daily, a Kremlin propaganda outlet, he is shown in military uniform urging Ukrainian soldiers to defect to Russia. The message is written in Cyrillic alphabet, propaganda which is then republished by bots. The false flag narrative surrounding the murder of 2 Israeli embassy staffers in May, absurdly attempting to claim the man charged with the shooting was in fact working on behalf of Israel, was another case in point, the nonprofit says. Foreign-linked seeders, such as Noctis, inject crisis narratives within minutes of breaking news. Their content is then mass republished by clusters of inauthentic accounts. This is what they are doing. Domestic personalities with large but unstable followings, such as noted trolls like Jackson Hinkle, you know, the guy who went flying out to Hezbollah to watch Nasrallah's funeral, that guy, supply a veneer of grassroots legitimacy, completing an asset adjacency model in which fringe U.S. influencers ride the same engagement farms that propel Kremlin messaging. Do you now understand? We have an information war. We have a social media war. We have actual wars going on right now. And unfortunately, we are too stuck in our own echo chambers to see otherwise. Just too stuck in them. Because people want to say Trump bad under any circumstances. Democrats bad under any circumstances. The dialogue is gone. We're not even talking to each other anymore. You know, one major difference between us and Israel, aside from the fact that they're a little teeny tiny and they speak Hebrew, and us here in the U.S., and we're ginormous with 350 million people and we speak American. Do you know one of the major differences? With them, when they have an election, it's about domestic policies. It's never about national security. It never is. They all agree on national security. They have a coalition government. That's how they function over there. We're literally, can you imagine, for sake of argument right now, if Donald Trump and Gavin Newsom and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris all had to run the country together? That's what Bibi Netanyahu's got to deal with every single day. But at least they all agree on national security. And now, can you imagine this? If Gavin Newsom, who wants to be president so badly, and we'll talk about that, if Gavin Newsom, anytime he attacked Trump, it was only on LGBTQIA or trans stuff. But anytime President Trump said, we're bombing Iran and we're going to do it, Gavin Newsom would then come out and say, yeah, I like it. It's a good idea. President Trump's doing the right thing. Can you imagine that? Because that's what happens in Israel. We have lost the commonality in all this political infighting, and a lot of it's being driven by this social media insanity, by trolls who just want clicks and clickbait, by activist judges who say, you know what, because his skin is a certain color or whatever the case is, we're going to release this guy even though he's a threat to the U.S. And not because they have any legal backing to do so, but because they say, I feel this way. We are our own worst enemy right now, and I am worried about the nightmare scenario. I am worried that if a terrorist attack happened right now, half the country, God forbid, God forbid, God forbid, God forbid, half the country would say, well, he's got a point. Because that's been happening for the last 2 years. We literally have people inside our own government who are saying, well, a terrorist got a point. Or, I really like them terrorists. Or, America's a terrible place. I'm worried that this 2-week time frame is because they're worried about that kind of attack. And that report from CBS News and this report from the New York Post, you have the right-wing and the left-wing media agreeing on this stuff. Agreeing on this stuff. That is what I am concerned about. You think Bruce Harrell's up to the task if, God forbid, something happened here in Seattle? You think Bob Ferguson is up to the task if, God forbid, something happened in Washington State? You think Gavin Newsom's up to the task if something, God forbid, happened in California? He'd probably fight Donald Trump for sending in the FBI to investigate a terror attack in California if, God forbid, one happened right now. I am very concerned about our future. It feels like, we're riding high right now because Trump's in the White House and Republicans have Congress and all that other stuff. We are under attack from within. And unfortunately, we have influencers online who are too stupid to realize that a whole bunch of the clicks they're getting are from Russian bots. You know what? I don't get as many clicks as Tucker Carlson or Matt Gaetz or Marjorie Taylor Greene or Steve Bannon or anything like that. But at least I know what I'm saying is what I actually believe in, not in what bots fuel me to believe in by giving me legitimacy and giving me validation on social media. It's absolutely insane what's happening right now. And I am truly, truly concerned about something really, really bad happening. Speaking of really, really bad things that are happening, when we come back, Seattle had 3 shootings in the last 24 hours, but all anybody can talk about is a park where people are doing dirty, dirty things. We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570, KVI. All anybody can talk about is the World Cup. FIFA this, FIFA that, World Cup, World Cup. Oh, we got to get the city ready for FIFA. Yeah, that ain't going to happen. You know what this is like? The kid who didn't go to class all semester and goes, I'm going to get an A on that final. Now, we all have friends who have that gift, but that's not the majority of us. My roommate in college, he was that guy. He could just not study anything and just walk in and boom, he would ace that final. That is not the majority of us, and Seattle definitely isn't that. As much as everybody talks about FIFA, do you remember what happened when Taylor Swift was in town or Major League Baseball was in town or anything else was in town? All the crime was just happening everywhere else because the cops were all dealing with that. What happened today in our world-class city? A man with an extensive criminal history who shot at Seattle police after shooting his girlfriend Friday morning was found dead inside a Madison Park apartment after an hours-long standoff. Interim Seattle Police Chief Sean Barnes, he's not interim anymore. Oh, he's interim. Oh, Mike, I forgot. They haven't officially confirmed him yet because, he failed the lie detector test. And they put him forward anyway. Oh, so they're calling him interim Seattle Police Chief? Oh, that's great, Como News. Thank you. Como News, I award you 5 journalism points today. That's excellent. Well done, guys. Very well done. There we go. Give him the money. Very good, Mike. It is not known if the man was killed when an officer returned gunfire or if he died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The 53-year-old man was found in a bedroom area by SWAT officers. Barnes said the man was convicted of a double homicide in Seattle in the 1990s and was released from prison in 2017. Well, it sounds like he's really gotten his life back on track, hasn't he? The incident unfolded in the 3200 block of East Madison Street near the Washington Park Arboretum when officers were dispatched to a domestic violence call at 4:51 a.m. When they arrived, a woman in the front yard ran to the officers, immediately collapsed in their arms. She had been shot in the lower back and was later taken to the hospital. Moments later, as police tried to help the wounded woman, a man came outside, started shooting at police. One officer fired back. As I was saying in the earlier segment, watch what happens. Now you're going to have all the Antifa types going, "You killed him! You killed him!" Right? Should have police anyway, or none of this would have happened. Barnes then said the man barricaded himself inside an apartment. Hostage negotiators arrived, tried to get him to surrender. Barnes said the 53-year-old man had a very violent past. He said police tried several times to negotiate with the man, and a partnering agency also used a drone to see if police could see or communicate with the man. Quote, "We know he fired his weapon at that particular drone. We know because he was very upset. We know that he was throwing furniture and moving around the residence, which is why we decided to negotiate with him and not breach the entirety of it until we determined what happened." Barnes said police did not have contact with the man for about an hour. Officers developed a plan to use a robot to move the obstructions that he had placed in the apartment. Once police were able to see inside, they saw the man unresponsive in the bedroom area. Police then breached the apartment with an explosive device and determined he was dead. At least a dozen police vehicles were on the scene, along with 4 SWAT trucks, some fire department vehicles, and police dogs. Seattle Police Department told residents in the area to shelter in place while the standoff was taking place. A neighbor who lived nearby said he heard 12 to 15 gunshots in 2 to 3 bursts. A large number of officers immediately responded. Video from the scene showed officers entering an apartment complex, and police were heard talking over a loudspeaker, telling neighbors in the area to stay inside. The incident was the first of what Barnes described as a violent morning in Seattle. About 2 hours later, officers began leaving the area while the standoff continued. Barnes said they were heading to another report of shots fired at officers. Oh, that incident? That one? That was near my house. Yeah, let me tell you, that was fun this morning, hearing all the sirens and everything else. A 33-year-old man is now in custody after he fired a shot at officers and then jumped into Lake Washington in an apparent attempt to escape. You fast swimmer there, buddy. Around 6:25 a.m., officers were called to the 8400 block of 55th Avenue South for a report of an assault. Police arrived, and while trying to take him into custody, an officer deployed their taser. The armed man fired a shot towards officers. No officers were hurt, and none shot back at the suspect. The man then fled towards Pritchard Island Beach area with Seattle officers, a K-9 Tukwila police, and King County deputies joined the search. During the hunt for the suspect, neighbors began calling 911 to report a man matching the suspect's description who was running through backyards. Police asked community members to shelter in place while they searched for the shooter. Officers immediately went to the area, found the man running to the dock near the Atlantic City boat ramp. Oh, I know exactly where that is. He then jumped into Lake Washington. Como News video from the scene showed the man holding his hands up in the air while speaking with officers. Shortly before 8:30 a.m., the man was pulled from the water, taken into custody, then transported to the hospital to be checked out. Yeah, we're a world-class city, right? Crime is going down. Violence is going down. I bet you we're going to find out this guy's got a long, extensive criminal history too, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't be being pursued by multiple police agencies. But you know what this tells me that's even more frustrating? Police around here can do their jobs, which we say all the time. if they're allowed to do their jobs by people like Sean Barnes. So why weren't they allowed to do their jobs for the riots? Why aren't they allowed to protect property in downtown? Why is it they're not allowed to arrest people who assaulted a journalist in downtown Seattle, beating him so bad that he's got a concussion now when he had a helmet on? The officers want to do the right thing, but the people above them won't let them do it. Sean Barnes knows there's going to be a press conference if that happens today. He's more than happy to go out there. We stopped gun violence. Doesn't want to be out there if it's against Antifa, because then he'll be on the wrong side of them, which means the mayor's on the wrong side of them, because the mayor's heading into an election year. How cowardly is that? We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from George in Kenmore. George, what's going on?
Hey, Ari, best job I never got. I was going to help with the dirty bomb studies in New York City back in 2003. But first I had to do the state of Louisiana IT preparedness for a hurricane. And then Katrina happened. So it's the best job I never got. But
gotcha. But that's what you wanted to do.
Yeah, but that's 22 years of dirty bomb studies. It was on the streets of New York. You know, they went through the whole place.
Yep.
And, you know, we're totally prepared for this, or we were, and the FBI should, of course, be more focused on it. They do stop a lot of terror attacks, you know, but, you know, it's just crazy. And for the FIFA, I certainly hope we clean up the streets of Seattle.
Well, they're gonna clean up certain
did.
streets of Seattle, certain streets, not the whole city. They're gonna push everything else to those areas. George, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show? You give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, President Trump beats Gavin Newsom again. We'll tell you what happened and how a court ruled. Plus, don't forget, coming up at 4 o'clock, your chance to take the trip or keep the cash during our latest giveaway. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. In a unanimous ruling from the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, one of the most liberal appeals courts in the U.S., a unanimous opinion yesterday, President Donald Trump is allowed to keep control of National Guard troops deployed to Los Angeles. Because guess what, guys? That's kind of in the book. We know what that says. The ruling says the lower court order that ordered command of the troops back to Governor Gavin Newsom is now stayed. A president hasn't made a decision about the deployment of the National Guard without the permission of a state's governor since 1965. In the filing, the court said they believe the president had made a lawful decision. Quote, affording the president that deference, we conclude it is likely that the president lawfully exercised his statutory authority under 124063, which authorizes federalization of the National Guard when the president is unable with the regular forces to execute the laws of the United States. The court also stated that they disagreed with Newsom's argument that the president's decision to federalize members of the California National Guard under 10 U.S.C. 12406 is completely insulated from judicial review. So President Trump, being President Trump, posts this over on Truth Social right afterwards. Big win for the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals on the president's core power to call in the National Guard. By the way, this case never should have happened. It's pretty cut and dry. The judges obviously realize that Gavin Newsom is incompetent and ill-prepared, but this is much bigger than Gavin because all over the United States, if our cities and our people need protection, we are the ones to give it to them should state and local police be unable, for whatever reason, to get the job done. He's 100% right. Imagine if the police department is defeated. Imagine if Minneapolis, a police department is burned down. Imagine if in Seattle, a police department is abandoned. Quote, this is a great decision for our country, and we will continue to protect and defend law-abiding Americans. Congratulations to the Ninth Circuit. America is proud of you tonight. Now, here's the thing, guys. This is a huge loss for Gavin Newsom. That's a huge loss for people like Bob Ferguson. He's going to freak out because he doesn't want to see Trump seizing control of the Washington National Guard like in California. Imagine if these riots continue at the federal building in downtown Seattle, journalists keep getting assaulted, cars keep getting attacked, and Donald Trump says, you know what, I'm calling in the National Guard, I'm sending them in. Bob Ferguson will not be able to do anything about it, and we need that federal help. Thing is that with all this going on right now, Gavin Newsom really thinks, delusionally, he can still be president. He really, truly believes that. Now, he's got some damage control to do today. Why? Because, according to City Journal, while violent anti-ICE riots erupted across Los Angeles earlier this month, California's Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom was attending a wine tasting event in Napa Valley. In Napa Valley, he was attending a wine tasting event while Los Angeles was on fire. On the afternoon of June 7th, as chaos gripped Southern California, Newsom was seen mingling with guests at the Vineyard Vibes fundraiser held at the upscale Odette Estate Winery, which he co-founded in 2011. Oh, it's his winery! Oh, he's making some money while getting sloshed. Wonderful. According to senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute, Christopher Rufo, writing for City Journal, the event featured jazz music, locally sourced food, and a curated selection of premium wines. Sounds lovely. Sounds delightful. Lovely party. Pity I wasn't invited. The fundraiser supported the Plumpjack Foundation, led by Newsom's sister, on behalf of the UCSF Helen Diller Family Comprehensive Cancer Center in honor of their mother who died of breast cancer. Very, very nice. Now, here's the thing. Sad that she died, but very nice event. Lovely that you're doing that for your mother. Promotional material billed the party as the perfect kickoff to summer fun. One guest at the event said, I couldn't believe it. He was just walking around like it was an everyday occurrence. You know that when a city is on fire, the largest city in your state, you are allowed to leave the wine tasting, even if it's for your mother of blessed memory. You can even say, you know what, Ma? We raised the money already. Do you know how fundraisers work normally, guys? You pay to be there. There's usually an ask at the event. I assume the governor already got all the money in the room, and if he said, hey, guys, I'm enjoying this a lot, but before I get too drunk, I got a riot happening in Los Angeles. I got to go deal with it. Otherwise, Trump's going to come in. He could have done that. Could have had his wine and drank it too. Could have done that, but no, he didn't. Now, what's crazy is by the time Newsom arrived at the winery, rioters in L.A. had already begun torching vehicles, smashing windows, and clashing violently with police. That evening after the event concluded, President Trump ordered 2,000 National Guard troops to be deployed to California. Well, now apparently the reason they weren't deployed was because Gavin Newsom was getting sloshed. Now, Gavin Newsom has his PR hacks. Tell you something about me for a second. I've got these alerts set up, so anytime somebody says anything about me on the internet, ever since I started getting death threats, I know about it. And that way I can be prepared to defend myself and my family. Gavin Newsom has something similar set up, so that way he can send his PR people after it because his PR is terrible. And they want to try and spin everything. So here's the spin I would have given Gavin Newsom. As a professional political consultant, I would have said, yeah, this don't look good, but what your excuse should be, I can walk and chew gum at the same time. The mayor said they had it in hand. I was monitoring the situation. And the police, you can lie. He lies. You can even say, oh, they were dealing with it. It wasn't out of control yet. I was going to send in the National Guard, but then Trump came along and he took it away before I could even send him in. Could have done anything like that. But apparently, his PR people were so mad that Chris Rufo posted this, they started yelling and screaming at him on Twitter. They wrote, in response to the criticism, he defended his attendance, saying he proudly attended the fundraiser in honor of his mother who died of breast cancer. Okay, we got that, dude. Very, very sad. But she's not like dying in your arms right then and there. This happened years ago. Yet the optics of the governor's appearance at a high-end winery during a moment of statewide crisis have drawn sharp rebukes, particularly in light of his past controversies. Most notably, in 2020, Newsom came under fire for dining at the French Laundry restaurant during COVID lockdowns with his health people, defying his own public health guidance. He later apologized, calling it a bad mistake. Rufo said in this instance it was wine rather than food that caught Newsom's attention, but the principle is the same. Newsom sips Cabernet while his state burns. The governor's office reached out with comment and said, let's get the facts straight. This was a cancer research fundraiser, not a wine party. Were you drinking wine to raise money for the cancer people? Yeah, you were. While Donald Trump was golfing in Bedminster the same day, attending a UFC fight, his White House senior team was literally posting about shopping for popcorn. The governor proudly attended a fundraiser benefiting, you know what? No. That's wrong. You say he can walk and chew gum at the same time. Don't go to the dead mom. Don't go to this. That's not what you're saying. You're trying to spin a family fundraiser for cancer research into a political hit while excusing a president who is literally golfing after gutting cancer research. Come on, guys. No. That's not going to score you points. Gavin Newsom is known as an elitist. The French Laundry thing. All the other stuff this guy has done, this looks terrible. And the reason they're trying to spin it is they are still delusionally believing that this guy can be president of the United States. Do you think this spin is going to help him? May help him in California. May help him in Washington. Ain't going to help him nationally, especially as the state continues to move, especially as the country, not our state, the country continues to move to the right, not Washington. Speaking of Washington, by the way, when we come back, my friends, the Washington Department of Transportation is too busy fighting on social media to actually fix roads. We'll tell you about the fight they got into with me today when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Okay, a few of you have been making fun of me about this on social media, but yes, I will address it. So last week on Sunday, it was Flag Day. The Mets were playing, and the Mets had the national anthem going on Flag Day. And instead of showing the American flag on the big scoreboard, the big screen out in the outfield, what do they show waving in the breeze during the national anthem? The pride flag. Now, not such a big deal. I think it's a pretty big deal, but I understand some people think it's a nothing burger. Well, you have to understand something about sports. It's a very superstitious kind of thing. Last year, the Mets had this miracle playoff run, and they credited Grimace. Yeah, the McDonald's character, the big purple guy. Why? Grimace one day threw out the first pitch at a baseball game, and the Mets didn't lose a game for like 2 weeks after that. It was amazing. So they called it the Grimace era. In fact, they went all Grimace all the time. He started showing up to games. The guy in the suit, they had a seat for him at the games. I mean, it was really, really funny, and they had this remarkable run ever since Grimace threw out the first pitch. Well, it seems like the opposite is happening. Ever since the Mets put the pride flag up on the Jumbotron on Flag Day during the national anthem, which is a huge no-no, they're 0-6, and they just got swept by the Braves, who are far, far, far down on the list. So, yeah, things not looking too good for my Mets. Everybody's obsessed with all this virtue signaling, regardless of what it does to their brand. Can't you just play baseball? Can't you just say you're the America's pastime, and you're going to put the national anthem, and you're going to have the American flag, and that's what's going to be on Flag Day? Well, you know, it's just like this. Washington Department of Transportation, WashDOT. They changed their logo to this black, green, red, and white thing. Now, what's interesting is somebody sent me this, and they sent me their style guide. Style guides are how you could treat our logo, how you could treat our brand. And they've got like a 40-page style guide for the logo for WashDOT. How about you guys fill some potholes? How about you guys fix some bridges? How about you guys fix some freeways? How about you guys get some homeless people off some freeways? But no, we've got a 40-page style guide about our logo. So they updated it, and what's interesting was people were a little confused. Black, green, red, and white. Well, black, green, and red is the Pan-African flag, which I don't really know why you're flying that thing anyway. We live in America here, but okay. But you add white into it, and now you've got the Palestinian flag. So people were kind of confused. What is WashDOT signaling? So I actually messaged WashDOT, and they said, well, it's the Pan-African flag for Juneteenth, and we do this for all these other holidays as well. But what's interesting is their style guide doesn't mention other holidays. How about you just keep the logo the logo? But they spent all morning going back and forth with me and people on social media about the stupid logo. And I'm thinking to myself, man, if you guys only took care of the roads the way you take care of your stupid logo, if you guys only put the effort into fixing the roads that you do into arguing with me on social media over the stupid logo, we might not have some problems. Like this one. Traffic is going to be a nightmare this weekend starting at 10 p.m. tonight. Why? Because WashDOT has put off bridge maintenance for so long that pieces of the Ship Canal Bridge are literally falling off and now have to be fixed. So this deferred maintenance we've had for years, if not decades, now is going to cause this massive traffic problem because what? Were they building bike lanes? What were they building? Bike lanes to nowhere? What were they spending their money on? Style guides for their logo? DEI training at WashDOT? Because they clearly weren't spending it on, actually as the Department of Transportation, fixing the transportation around here. I know, crazy idea, Hoffman, right? How dare you? That's just insane, absolutely insane. Maybe you guys spent more time actually fixing the roads. I want to hit so many potholes when I'm driving places. So frustrating. When we come back, my friends, your chance to take the trip or keep the cash during our giveaway. Plus, my friends, Washington State is the only state in the union where gas prices are up from this point last year. Gee, I wonder why that is. We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up at 4:45, our Fake News Friday. Put a smile on your face heading into the weekend. And also, we are going to have a bonus contest where you can win tickets to F1 the movie, starring Brad Pitt, which is pretty awesome. We saw it this week in an advanced screening. It's pretty awesome. But before we get to any of that, my friends, it's time for one of our other contests. That's right, my friends. Today, I just want to remind all of you, you work hard, you need a getaway, or possibly some financial relief. We've got you covered with KVI's Take the Trip or Keep the Cash.
The golden age of America, I call it. It's begun. So it's the golden age of America, and that's what it's going to be.
That's what it's going to be, my friends. That's what it's going to be. This week, you can get away to Venice, Italy with gondola rides, candlelit pasta, and Prosecco beneath Venetian skies. Or have a chance at $3,000 in cold, hard cash. All you have to do is follow my directions to the letter, my friends. Here's what you do. You text the keyword that I give you, and only the keyword that I give you, and only text it once. And do not send your address, your phone number, anything else. Just text that keyword to the number. Do not call us with it, and you will be entered for your chance to take the trip or keep the cash. You'll also be entered in our daily drawing to get a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card. So today's word is dock. As in, look at those giant cruise ships that are leaving the dock right now in front of us. That's D-O-C-K. A dock down by the side of the bay. Right? Exactly. Wow, look, I didn't even know you were going to play that.
Not a whole lot of doc songs.
No,
or
not
at least
really.
not a lot of doc songs that is the D-O-C-K kind of. I mean, I could have played, Can We Rock? What's up, Doc? But that's a D-O-C.
Right.
This is a D-O-C-K.
Right, there's very few.
Theirs goes D-O-C. Ours goes D-O-C-K.
They're not the same. They're not
the same. Text the word doc, D-O-C-K.
D-O-C-K. You have until 5 p.m. to enter. Your next chance at winning comes Monday at 8 a.m. with the morning ride with Phil Vandervoort. Now, check out danielsbroiler.com to reserve a table, place your takeout delivery order, and more. And in fact, some Daniel's Broiler locations, guess where they are? They're down at the dock.
Oh, my gosh, you're
That's
right.
right. That's right, my friends. That's why they're in Leschi, South Lake Union. That's why they're in those places, because that's where Daniel's Broiler is going to be. So remember, you have until 5 o'clock to enter the word dock at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Leonard in Shoreline. Leonard, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing there, sir?
I'm doing great today. How are you, Leonard?
Great. You know that deal you talked about this morning, this afternoon regarding that Pritchard Beach shooting?
Yeah.
Yes. I heard about that this morning when I got up because I had the scanner on this morning, and I didn't mind listening to it because I wanted to find out what the heck was going on over there. But all I kept hearing while they were calling out the entire police force was the fact that they were using beep tones to close the air.
Oh, yeah. So actually, I did some research into this, and yes, they are going to be shutting down the airwaves, or rather encrypting the airwaves soon. I've got some calls out on this because I kind of wonder if it's constitutional. Leonard, let me get back to you on that. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Well, another reason that you want to win our contest and you want to text the word DOC, D-O-C-K, to 206-421-5757 is you're going to need that money. While the rest of the U.S. has seen gas prices stabilize or drop compared to last year, Washington stands alone. It is the only state where gasoline prices are higher than they were at this time in 2024. Well done. Well done, everyone. The only state in the U.S. whose gas prices are going up while everybody else's are going down. Well done. Patrick DeHaan, he's the head of petroleum analysis at GasBuddy, told the Center Square, you are literally the only state that is above where it was a year ago. According to AAA, The average price for regular unleaded gas in Washington on June 18, 2024 was about $4.35. This year, on the same date, it had climbed to nearly $4.41 per gallon, an increase of 6 cents, bucking national trends. Well, it's about to go higher, my friends, because it's almost July. And in July, you get that other new tax that the Democrats, Bob Ferguson, and some of your Republican friends voted for. Experts point to a perfect storm of global instability, regional refinery issues, and state-specific policies as reasons why Washington drivers are paying more, leaning more on these state-specific policies, my friends. DeHaan explained, Washington's really been impacted by some events of the kind you have out of your state, referring to ongoing refinery problems in California, a fire at the Martinez Refining Company in February, which sent Washington prices soaring by 21 cents per gallon. Two of California's major refineries, Phillips 66 in Los Angeles and Valero in Benicia, are also slated to shut down permanently, reducing future supply. So hang on. California is shutting down gas refineries because they want to be more green, so that's shooting up our gas prices. Thanks, guys. But pain at the pump isn't just coming from across state lines. Washington's Climate Commitment Act, a cap-and-trade emissions program launched under Governor Jay Inslee, is also playing a growing role in rising fuel costs. The system forces businesses to buy pollution allowances through state auctions. Fewer allowances are offered over time, raising their price and ultimately the cost of fuel for consumers. The cap and tax auctions have already raised over $3 billion for green energy projects, but critics point out that over 90% of the funds weren't spent to combat climate change, noting that the cost is falling squarely on ordinary Washingtonians. Yes, my friends, I want you to remember that every time you fill up at the pump, Reuben Carlyle, former Washington state senator, is enjoying millions of dollars he got for a consulting company to tell people how to get money from the Climate Commitment Act. Just remember Reuben Carlyle, just remember Joe Wynn, just remember Bob Ferguson, just remember Jay Inslee. Remember that every time you go to the gas pump, that they are the reason your gas is so expensive. When you look at those gas prices and want to curse whoever it is, Reuben Carlyle, Joe Wynn, Jay Inslee, Bob Ferguson. Just remember those four names: Reuben Carlyle, Joe Wynn, Jay Inslee, Bob Ferguson. They are the reason you are paying so much at the pump. It's not the refineries. It's not the war in the Middle East. It's because of the Climate Commitment Act. Now, if you want to curse some people some more, on top of that, a new gas tax increase is set to take effect on July 1st, adding another 6 cents per gallon to regular fuel, 3 cents to diesel. Additional increases tied to inflation will follow in the coming years. DeHaan said, it's not looking terrific for summer. The long road is worrisome as well. Washington's vulnerability to international oil shocks is also contributing to rising costs. Escalating conflict in the Middle East, particularly between Israel and Iran, has caused global oil prices to spike nearly $10 per barrel in just 1 week. Hey, you know what would have fixed that, by the way? If we weren't reliant on other countries for oil. Do you remember when Joe Biden said, we're not drilling... Oh, wait, hang on. I got to do my Joe Biden. We're not going to... What are we not going to do anymore? Sir, we're not going to drill for oil. Right. We're not going to drill for oil. Cause why? Because it's bad, and we want to stop climate change. Yeah. I have cancer, right? That was Joe Biden. He was literally talking about having cancer. You remember that? So what happens? Joe Biden said, no more drilling here, but it's okay to drill in the Middle East. Well, look what's happening in the Middle East right now. Well done, Joe Biden. And Gavin Newsom goes, yeah, we're going to shut down those oil refineries. We're going to shut them down because they're bad for Mother Earth. Oh, no, we're going to replace it from. We'll shut it down. We're going to shut it down. You know what we're going to use out here? Wind. Wind in California. Yes, we'll just put the windmills right outside my office, and we'll be fine. We'll be powered for the rest of time. Yeah, that's not going to cut it, guys. So as a result of that, you have problems like this. You just shut down 2 oil refineries. Wouldn't it be nice to have those 2 oil refineries up and running? Wouldn't it be nice to have more oil production so it didn't matter what happened in the Middle East? Quote, Iran is a top oil producer, DeHaan warned. Any disruption there impacts prices globally and locally. Wouldn't it be nice to be completely energy independent from these guys? Yeah, we could have been. We were under President Trump beforehand. Now we have to fix it all over again. Despite numerous warnings from energy analysis, the state officials downplay the potential impact of their climate policies. Quote, I don't think it's going to be noticeable, said Joel Cresswell, climate policy section manager at Department of Ecology back in 2022. As prices climbed, Climate Commitment Act implementation manager Luke Martland said in March that the program would have little effect on customer prices. Remember what Jay Inslee said? It's going to be pennies. Only pennies. You're not even going to notice it. We should have put a Pinocchio nose on that guy. A now deleted page on Ecology's website claimed the CCA's impact on gas prices would be very modest. Pennies. Remember that a dollar out of every single dollar you pay for a gallon of gas, $1 of that price. So what is it? It's near $5 near my house. That's about right? So $1 of that is because of Jay Inslee and crew. Meanwhile, Puget Sound Energy, which serves over 800,000 customers in 6 counties, raised rates due to the cap and tax program, but was barred from telling customers the reason. The Washington Utilities and Transportation Commission, at the recommendation of then Attorney General, now Governor Bob Ferguson, prohibited the utility from disclosing that the increase was linked to the state's climate policy. Former Governor Jay Inslee, who built a national political profile as a climate crusader, continues to tout Washington's environmental leadership, but recent reports reveal the state is struggling to meet its climate targets. A King 5 investigation, which I cite because that one cracks me up. So the most left-leaning TV station in town did an investigation to find out, wait a minute. We want the climate not to change. We want to stop the climate from getting hotter. So Jay Inslee, you promised all this was going to happen. Why isn't any of this happening? It would have been great if you guys had called out Bob Ferguson for his involvement in all this, but you know what? It's slow. Red pilling is slow, guys. I get it. They found that Washington is recycling less, transportation-related emissions are up, and overall carbon emissions have increased. The state has even removed climate metrics from Inslee's Results Washington account website, which was meant to track progress on key goals. Washington's average price per gallon is now more than 50 cents higher than the national average as refinery capacity shrinks, taxes increase, and geopolitical risks mount. Analysts say the upward pressure on gas prices is likely to continue. DeHaan concluded the trend is not great for Washington state. Wow. Is that an undersell? Is that an undersell? By the way, that's not the only thing that's a fortune around here. You want another one? This is crazy. This is from the Bellingham Herald. Net Credit staff checked the price of a 30-minute Uber ride in each of the 100 biggest cities in the U.S., along with 3 biggest cities in each state. He used those figures to get an estimate on the average Uber price in each state. At $53.46, Net Credit's Washington estimate was the highest of any state in the country. Woo! We're number one again. Woo! Woo-hoo! That's around $18 higher than the normal median and $23 more than the state with the cheapest Ubers, which is Indiana. Washington's high average Uber price was largely driven by the cost of taking an Uber in Seattle. Whoa, hang on. Wasn't the Seattle City Council the ones passing all that stupidity that was going to make Uber more expensive, and all it did was lead to people using Uber less and driving their own cars more? Well, I can't imagine why you guys aren't hitting the climate metrics you want to be hitting. At an estimated $60, Seattle had the highest average price for a 30-minute Uber of any city included in the study. When you're more expensive than Los Angeles, and you're more expensive than New York, and you're more expensive than Miami, and you're more expensive than any of the San Francisco, you are doing something wrong. Something very wrong. And you know what studies like this do? Only tell people, don't take the Uber. It's a ripoff. Net Credit's estimate for Seattle was $9 higher than the most expensive city, Cheyenne, Wyoming. That's because nobody lives there and there's like 3 Ubers. It's always on peak time because you got nobody to drive around there. And it was $12.50 higher than third place, Reno, Nevada. A state law passed in 2022 created a separate minimum wage for rideshare drivers in Washington. The most in the state, rideshare companies have to pay their drivers at least 39 cents a minute or $1.34 a mile, whichever is higher, according to the state's Department of Labor and Industries. In Seattle, those numbers rise to 68 cents and $1.59, respectively. No matter how short a trip is, rideshare companies have to pay their drivers a minimum of $3.45 in most of the state and $5.95 in Seattle. So, well done, everybody. Really well done that we're at this place. And by the way, you think this minimum wage nonsense helps at all? Of course not. Because here's the thing, it's being undercut by illegal immigrants. Turd Ferguson puts this up the other day. Washington supports our union workers. I talked with the Washington Association of UA Plumbers and Pipe Fitters today in Blaine about our fight against the president's harmful tariffs and our import expansions of worker protections in this legislative session. If you want to protect workers so much, why are you big on illegal immigration, which is undercutting their wages? If you're so big on increasing the minimum wage and higher wages, why are you supporting illegal immigrants? Tariffs also keep jobs in America. Whether I agree with them or not, that's something they do. They keep things here in America. So what the hell are you talking about? And these unions that are backing the turd? Do you guys understand how you are self-defeat? Oh, wait. I'm so silly. Hoffman, you're so silly, right? If you help get these guys elected, they reward you with kickbacks. That's it. It's that simple. You don't even need to look out for your members anymore. When are the union members going to rise up against this stupidity, against people like Bob Ferguson, and say, all you have to say is if you really supported our wages being high, you wouldn't be advocating for illegal immigrants coming here to work because they are undercutting our wages. It's simple economics. We know that Bob Ferguson is not a dumb guy. He's actually very, very smart. He's an evil genius. So why don't you call him on that? He'll do his whole abadi, where he can't answer a question. It'll be fun to watch. He'll come up with some kind of word salad, but he won't have an answer for you because those are two contradictory policies. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from John in Redmond. John, what's going on?
Hi there, Ari. I want to elevate the demand for Post-its. I have been doing it for a long time, but people can make 2 or 3 pre-filled out Post-its every time they get out of the car at the gas station. Say $1 per gallon goes to the general fund, not roads.
Oh, well, we don't want to I know it's not vandalizing. We don't want to do that, but here's the other thing, what we should be doing, right? Imagine if everybody shared that on social media. Everybody's got a circle of 100 people you interact with. If you, the next time you're talking to your buddy over the fence and he's complaining about gas prices and you don't care where he stands politically, you say, hey, you know why your gas prices are so high? Now, I hear where you're coming from. Post-its you want to do as opposed to those stickers somebody made, which is Bob Ferguson's face going, I did that. Right? I understand. Believe me, I understand the desire to do that. But rather than putting the things on the gas pump, which I agree with you, it's funny, it gets the message out there. What you got to do is not just social media, but you got to talk to people. Talk to people and talk to people.
I do on a daily, weekly basis. I talk to people, but you know, Ari, until they see it at the gas pump, really are stupid.
You know what we should do? Wait, you gave me an idea. John, you gave me an idea. You know that you're in Redmond. You know you have the nicer gas stations out there with the screens on the gas pumps that like talk to you and do commercials and stuff? You know those, right? You know what I'm talking about, right? We should pay for advertising, which is just Bob Ferguson pointing at the thing. It's the sticker, but it's a paid ad on the thing.
I wonder what that would cost to get a
You know what? Do me a favor, John. Reach out to those guys and find out. A little Googling, I'm sure you can find out. You tell me. We'll talk about doing a campaign. I think I could talk to our friends over at Future 42 about something like that. John, great call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Don't forget, coming up at 4:45 is Fake News Friday, but it is also, we are having a bonus contest today to win tickets to see F1 the movie starring Brad Pitt, which we all very much enjoyed. So bonus contest today. Another reason for you to always listen to Talk Radio 570 KVI, left on your dial, always right on the issues. You can also stream us at KVI.com, download the KVI app, and of course subscribe to us on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. When we come back, my friends, I love that Homeless Inc. is crying poverty because apparently the homeless people aren't paying their rents. Oh, gee, who didn't see this one coming from affordable housing? We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show, my friends. And have you heard that coming up at 4:45 is not just Fake News Friday with young Zach from The Morning Show, which you can catch every single weekday right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI from 6 to 9 a.m., but we are also having a special bonus giveaway this week. That's right. We are giving away two tickets to an advanced screening of F1, the movie, my friends. You get to watch the movie with young Zach. See Brad Pitt in F1, the movie, only in theaters on June 27th. And make sure you're listening to The Real Deal on Monday, where Mike and I will give you our review of F1, the movie. And spoiler alert, we liked it quite a bit. We'll tell you all about that on Monday and the reasons why. Switching gears entirely for a minute here, there's a new poll out. Now, before you get excited, let me give you the details, and then I'm going to tell you who put this poll out and why they put this poll out for a second. Now, the shtick of the poll is that every single public official, every single one, has a negative rating here in Seattle, a negative rating. Nobody likes their public officials here in Seattle. They're all underwater. All their ratings have gone down. Now, this includes Bruce Harrell, down 8%, Ann Davidson, down 13%, Joy Hollingsworth, down 16%, Mark Solomon, who wasn't even elected and he's not running for office, 18%. By the way, keep that Mark Solomon one in your back pocket. Why would they mention Mark Solomon? He's not up for election. He wasn't elected. He's filling a 60-day, 120-day appointment. Why would you add him in this poll? Bob Kettle, Sarah Nelson, Maritza Rivera, Dan Strauss, Kathy Moore, Rob Saka. In fact, even Alexis Mercedes Rink. Why would you even bother mentioning any of that, right? This is a weird poll. And I know some of you are going, yes, this means a Republican can win. No, my friends. It's from the Northwest Progressive Institute. Now, the Northwest Progressive Institute, when they do this, it's because they're trying to elect a socialist, which means they want you to share this thing. It's a trap. Don't share this thing. Because what they're trying to say is, you know what? Don't vote for these guys. Vote for our socialists who are more socialist than the socialists you already got. See, they don't like Joy Hollingsworth. You know why they don't like Joy Hollingsworth? Because I like Joy Hollingsworth. Joy Hollingsworth and I disagree on a lot. Joy Hollingsworth is a hardcore liberal. Joy Hollingsworth has very strong opinions on a lot of things domestically that I disagree with. But you know what I like about Joy Hollingsworth? She shows up to her district for her district, and she will come on the show to have discussions with me about things we disagree on and things we agree on because she's a genuine person. She is my favorite Seattle City Council member. She is. She's great about that. Why is Mark Solomon on here? Because they're trying to show that whatever far lefty they want to elect here, that's better than Mark Solomon. Why is Mercedes Rink on here? She's only down 4% compared to the other ones that are pretty high. Why? Because they're trying to say, no, it's not about socialism. She's the socialist candidate, guys. Don't believe this for a second. But have you noticed a theme here? Ann Davidson, Joy Hollingsworth, Bob Kettle, Rob Saka, Kathy Moore, who's not running for re-election, Dan Strauss, Maritza Rivera, Sarah Nelson. It's all the people who are seemed as not except for Strauss, as more moderate. Strauss they don't like because Strauss ended up becoming more moderate because he wanted to keep his job. Things are falling apart here. And now even Homeless Inc. is having problems. Ready? Here's the headline from the Seattle Times, and you have to dig to see what the real crisis is. Seattle's affordable housing industry is in crisis. City faces tough choices. Doesn't that sound like they're almost blaming Trump or something, like they're going to lose funding and that's what you find in the article? No. I'm going to tell you what you're going to find in the article. Let me read from this certain point here. Nearly every tenant in the low-income affordable housing was paying rent before the pandemic. In 2024, 60% to 90% were, according to a 2024 state survey of affordable housing providers in Washington. However, in Seattle Housing Authority buildings, the number of tenants not paying was 8% in 2019 and 23% last year. Wait. So Seattle's a landlord and people aren't paying rent? I wonder why. Let's see, what changed between 2019 and last year? Oh, right. You guys had eviction moratoriums. You guys said you don't have to pay rent, and you're still dealing with that in eviction court. Quote, a number of organizations trace their unpaid rent problem to the eviction moratorium and rental relief provided during the pandemic. So, wait a minute. The same problems that lots of our friends have been coming on the show to discuss about how they can't get rid of these deadbeat tenants are the same problems Homeless Inc. is now having? I'm just thinking of the Jerry Seinfeld meme where he's sitting there on the couch eating popcorn going, that's a shame. The Low Income Housing Institute, one of the largest nonprofit affordable housing providers in the state, Executive Director Sharon Lee said the measures caused a cascade effect. One tenant would stop paying rent and then tell neighbors they weren't evicted. And pretty soon, more people on the floor stopped paying. Oh, they figured out how to game the system? Oh, there's a shocker right there. Oh my God, how did this ever happen? I have no idea how something like this could have ever happened. So now Homeless Inc. is having the exact same problems they advocated for because of the programs they advocated for, because of the policies they advocated for. And you know what it didn't even bother mentioning? That taxpayer money was also being used for the attorneys to keep these people in, even if they were under eviction. You reap what you sow. You guys cause these problems, and I don't feel bad for you at all. When we come back, my friends, lots more to discuss, including, I can't believe I'm going to say this out loud, a California nudist is accused of killing their neighbors and drowning their dog over a hot dog. I kid you not. We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, coming up at 4:45 is our Fake News Friday segment, plus our bonus contest of your chance to win tickets to F1 the movie, which is only in theaters on June 27th. That's right. Don't forget to listen on Monday for our review of F1 the movie at 4:45 on Monday during our Real Deal, where we'll also be giving away spectacular prizes. But make sure you are listening at 4:45 today, not just for Fake News Friday, but also your chance to win 2 tickets to see F1 the movie. This story just cracked me up from the headline, so here we go. A California nudist is accused of killing his neighbors, chopping them up, and drowning their Shih Tzu after they allegedly mocked him with a $1 hot dog. According to Fox News, Redlands police announced the arrest of Michael Sparks, 62, last August, 5 days after his neighbors went missing. They found the suspect in his home, an Olive Dell Ranch, billed as a family-friendly RV park, and a reputed Southern California nudist resort. Something tells me the people in the RV park are a special kind of nudist. A cadaver dog alerted police to a bunker underneath the home where they recovered 2 bodies dismembered, mutilated, and stored in plastic bags. The victims were Daniel Menard, 79, who suffered from dementia, and his 73-year-old wife, Stephanie. Investigators had to evacuate the scene because they feared it might cave in. That doesn't sound like much of a bunker. That sounds like he dug a hole. They returned with heavy equipment to excavate and collect more evidence. Redlands Police Chief Rachel Tolbert told reporters last year that Sparks tried to shoot himself before his capture, but the gun misfired. The dog, Cuddles, remains unaccounted for. At Sparks' preliminary hearing this week, Redland Detective Thomas Williams testified that he shared details about the slayings with a jailhouse snitch who alerted authorities, according to the Press Telegram. He said Mr. Sparks told him about the incident and started over a hot dog that Daniel Maynard had purchased for him. He said that Mr. Sparks felt that the hot dog was a jab at him, making him feel like he was only worth a $1 hot dog, and that's what set him off that day. Sparks is accused of using a rake, a garden hoe, and a hammer to beat his neighbors to death before dismembering them and hiding the bodies in plastic bags in his bunker. It's not a bunker. It's a hole under an RV. Stop calling it a bunker. It's not a command center. It's a bunker. The informant also claimed he admitted to drowning Cuddles and leaving her remains for coyotes to eat. My God. 11 witnesses testified at the hearing, according to court documents. Evidence included crime scene photos as well as text between Sparks and 3 witnesses. In one photo, photographed in court by the Press Telegram, Sparks allegedly wrote to a friend, "Chopped up my neighbors. Didn't know I had it in me. Snapped." Okay. During a standoff before Sparks' arrest, responding officers asked him where the Maynards were and if they needed help. He replied back that they were in pieces. Well, at least he's honest. Ugh, awful. Other witnesses said that Sparks did not get along well with the Maynards. They had alleged disputes over a noisy backup generator, tree trimming, and the hot dog. Sparks faces 2 counts of murder and an animal cruelty charge. He pleaded not guilty. An earlier proceeding. Wait, hang on. You pled not guilty after telling the police and telling everybody else you did it? My God. Judge Alexander Martinez denied a defense motion to keep cameras out of the courtroom. Yeah, this is too wacky and insane. They want to have the cameras in there for the guy who got mad about a hot dog, so he murdered 2 people, dismembered them, and killed their dog, and then told the neighbors, yeah, I did it. My God, this is worse than O.J. Simpson's book, If I Did It, right? You remember when the family of Nicole Brown got the rights to the book and they changed the cover so the if was really teensy tiny letters, and it just said, I did it, by O.J. Simpson, right there on the cover. I'm not sure that many people actually bought said book. This is one of the crazier stories we have covered. But just that headline, the headline from Fox News, sounds like something the New York Post would write. Oh, right, it's the same people. California nudist accused of killing neighbors and drowning their dog over a hot dog jab. By the way, here's the crazy thing. The nudist stuff barely accounts into the story at all, except for the RV park was a place for the nudists. I kind of wonder what else is going on in that RV park. Did you guys not notice all this going on? You had to wait for the text messages about it? Lots more to discuss as the show continues. Don't forget, when we come back, my friends, it's going to be time for Fake News Friday with Young Zach from The Morning Show, plus also our spontaneous contest for you to win tickets to see F1 the movie. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show's final hour free-for-all. Your calls, your texts, your thoughts, your stories. Streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Congratulations to Carol Sahomish. First-time winner. You're going to get to see F1, the movie, with young Zach. You and a guest yet to go. Don't forget, your next chance to win fantabulous prizes is coming up at 5:45 during our Good News giveaway. Well, it's been a long week, and there's been a ton of news, but there are some stories that even we missed. Like, for example, I had no idea this happened until I went home yesterday, and my wife said, "Did you see the hearing on Joe Biden and the cover-up?" I said, "There was a hearing on Joe Biden and the cover-up? We've been so tied up with Iran. We've been so tied up with gas prices. We've been so tied up with Antifa. There was a hearing on the cover-up about Joe Biden and his health condition? Completely off my radar. Completely missed this. Well, luckily for us, Senator Katie Britt, who, by the way, is a delight in person, and her husband is amazing. Guy used to play for the Patriots. He's ginormous, by the way. Young Zach wanted to do a segment with him called A Brit About Sports. We thought that would be, he was so much fun at the RNC. Anyway, Katie Britt made out the case in the hearing yesterday.
This is incredibly important. I mean, you look at what the administration did, you look at what the Democratic Party did, you look at what the legacy media did. It is absolutely inexcusable. It is not only dangerous, it's disgusting. And the American people deserve better. And the fact that we have none of my Democratic colleagues over here, that this entire dais is empty, that what they allowed to happen, that they are not interested in correcting it for the future, is absolutely mind-blowing. And so when we're looking at what Joe Biden did while he was in office, you have a disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. I mean, leaving equipment, leaving allies, changing the way the world viewed us. You look at an emboldened Russia, Iran. You look at what happened, obviously, with China and those conversations with Joe Biden. You look at millions flooding across our border. You look at a ton of unaccompanied children coming across, hundreds of thousands. You look at hundreds of thousands of Americans dead because of fentanyl poisoning. You look at record high inflation. Who was in charge? And the fact that not one Democrat colleague can show up and try to get answers to that, I hope the American people see that for exactly what it is. And so my questions to you is, how do we prevent this in the future? So we know that the 25th Amendment in the 1960s, we take a look at that. Section 4 was purposefully vague to allow for some flexibility. Clearly, it either didn't work or we have some people we need to hold accountable for not stepping up. So I want to know from you all, what do we need to do? Do you think that there need to be more guardrails when it comes to Section 4? Do you think that we need some more standards to evaluate that? And if so, what should those standards be?
So she mentioned this at the beginning of her statement. The Democrats who are part of this committee walked out, didn't even want to be in the room for it. How many of them were in on the cover-up? How many of them were in on it? Look, I read Jake Tapper's book. I was actually talking to Adam Smith about it last week, Congressman Adam Smith, when he was on the show. He's mentioned in the book several times. And he was telling the Democrats, this guy cannot run for office again. You need to stop this. He is not up to the task. How many others didn't? How many didn't go public with it? Do you remember a single Democrat saying Joe Biden can't run for office? Instead, we were told, don't believe your lying eyes. He's fine. He's fine. Tim Walz, Kathy Hochul, J.B. Pritzker coming outside the White House. He's fine. He's wonderful. He's fantastic. He's the best he's ever been. Nobody's being held accountable. Who was running the autopen? Who was running the country during that absolutely disastrous administration? That's why so many Democrats voted for Joe Biden. Then we have this. So sources are saying that Vance Bolter, he's the guy who killed all those lawmakers in Minnesota. Vance Bolter's letter to the FBI. It's not really a manifesto. It's a letter that he wrote. So it was rambling and conspiratorial. He claimed he was trained by the U.S. military off the books and that Governor Tim Walz asked him to kill Senator Amy Klobuchar. He said that he needed to kill Klobuchar so Walz could run for the U.S. Senate. Now, Walz isn't running for the Senate. He decided against doing so earlier this year, but he is considering a third term as governor. This letter he wrote to the FBI is incoherent, 2 pages long and really hard to read. So let me ask you this. Number one, do you think this story is about to disappear from the headlines? I do. Number two, do you think there's anything to this, or you think this is a crazy person? There was a theft ring in Seattle years ago. It was like the first year I moved here. Mike, I don't know if you remember this or not. Somebody was paying homeless drug addicts to steal things so they could fence them. And they said, who's going to believe the homeless drug addicts? Nobody's going to believe them. And then when they all started pointing at the same guy, they're like, wait a minute, maybe there's something to this. So is this too crazy to believe, or is that exactly what they want you to think? Let me know what you think. Did this guy, was he trained by the U.S. military on behalf of Tim Walz so Tim Walz could run for governor? Give us a call or a text, 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Here's something else, though. Do you think any of the Democrats will ever be held accountable for what Joe Biden did? At all. Do you think any of them will be held accountable? My guess is no. My guess is Republicans are going to try and make headlines out of this, but at the end of the day, nobody's going to be held accountable. Democrats don't want to talk about it. They're going to leave the room. If not for one or two reporters, we would have even known this story even happened. They were covering the Democrats leaving the room. They weren't even covering the hearing. They just see the Democrats go storming out of the room, and they go, gee, I wonder where they're going right now. There's supposed to be a hearing in that room. That's how we got this story. Crazy stuff. Meanwhile, crazy stuff. Meanwhile, we have our friend Jonathan Cho, who is down in Portland this week. He's down in Portland covering the fact that the feds are actually handling Antifa down there. The feds are handling Antifa, and yet we have up here, they're not handling Antifa. But now that the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is one of the more lefty Court of Appeals, has ruled unanimously that Donald Trump can use the National Guard to stop these rioters, are we going to start seeing it here in Seattle? Jonathan Cho was on the ground this week in Portland. Here's what he reported.
If there was ever any doubt, Antifa is the muscle behind Portland's far-left protest scene. And these violent militants showed their clout Wednesday evening by swarming the Immigration and Customs Enforcement building. They're demanding the shutdown of this ICE facility because it's used for processing illegals. But federal agents did not budge.
Anyone to include the threat of trespassing on federal property is subject to arrest.
When a caravan of cars needed to leave the building, Homeland Security officers unleashed flashbangs, smoke, and a hail of non-lethal blast balls to disperse the crowd. This shock and awe campaign drove back the domestic terrorists, and it led to several arrests, effectively ending their evening. After the dust settled,
Why are you doing that?
Oregon City resident Brandon Geyer showed up outside the ICE building and volunteered his time Thursday morning.
Antifa militants still hanging around out here.
Removing some of these offensive stickers.
Very hateful things.
But some far-left activists didn't like that.
I mean, they're all threatening to attack me.
And started getting in his face.
How did the white people get the euro?
This man calls himself Gent and is a regular at Antifa Direct Actions.
There's no such thing as an immigrant on stolen land.
He says this is just the beginning.
They're breaking up families.
Of a very long summer of demonstrations, or until their mission is accomplished.
Until ICE is out in Portland. Period. For however long that is.
Yeah. Do you think that's actually going to happen when now that the feds have done the shock and awe campaign? Do you think that what's going to happen is now Antifa is going to say, wait, our plastic shields don't do anything? Maybe now they'll stop cosplaying as ninjas, or do you think we need a few more incidents like this one? Give us a call or a text, 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Meanwhile, radical Democrat Representative Maxwell Frost is now comparing ICE deporting illegal aliens who are criminals to human trafficking.
We have ICE federal agents pulling up, terrorizing our communities, hopping out of unmarked vans, stealing and, yes, kidnapping people, not giving them their day in court, and, yes, human trafficking them to other nations, other countries around the entire world.
So you don't care about the human traffickers, but you're accusing ICE of being human traffickers by getting rid of criminals who were convicted, who had their day in court? Just making sure we got that. Who already committed a crime by coming here illegally. Making sure I got that, right? Just making sure. You know, the rules aren't the same for the illegals. You all understand that, right? especially since the Patriot Act stuff. But they're going to keep doing this. They think this is their winning issue heading into the election. Do you think this is a winning issue for Democrats? Because right now it still looks like an 80-20 issue for most Americans. I think you're really going to have a hard time when you get rid of all the criminals and then you're left with the illegal immigrants who came here to work. I think you have a long time before that. Let me know what you think. 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Stephen in Auburn. Steve, what's going on?
Hey, Ari. Oh, my goodness. Just listening to you doing these past couple of minutes of talk, I was like, oh, man, I can't get all the things I want to talk to you about. But I'll focus on what
It's okay. It's the final hour free-for-all. I'll give you all the time you want. Yeah, what's on your mind today, man?
Okay, so I was talking about, to myself, I was like, hey, hold on. What actually is going on here? I was thinking about what you were saying, who's actually in charge of the government? Who's actually doing all the decision-making? Who's actually getting things done in the White House when Biden was first put in? And one of the things that came across my mind very often when I was seeing all these meetings or, I was seeing the displays on TV, or was listening to radio and talk shows all the time, and yours as well, KVI, I was like, hey, what's being done other than the progression of all of their agendas and hidden agendas too. I want to know what is their actual goal with things. What, by leaving the border open, by allowing drugs to be so far into our country and everywhere, just proliferating all of that, proliferating a terrorist state across the world, like allowing them to have our money by giving them money to doing things like that, when giving money to Iran. All of those things. Why is that so allowable?
So I'll tell you why. Here's what on the Democrat side. The Democrats, don't forget, remember when Michelle Obama said when her husband was elected, it was the first time she was proud of her country? Remember how many times all these lefties say how they hate America, how America is a terrible place, but yet they want everybody to come here? So let's take them at their word for a second. Let's give them benefit of the doubt that they mean every word of what they say. So if you think America is a terrible country, you want to remake it in whatever image that is. But to do that, you have this pesky little problem called elections here in this country. Now, they tried to circumvent elections with all it's so funny, the No Kings protests, because they had no problem being locked in their houses and everything else when there was authoritarianism in a lot of states in this country during COVID. But if they want to do that and they want to change how the voting trends go, you bring in a whole bunch of illegal immigrants who are going to be so thankful you got them out of their third world countries, they're going to vote for you. And if you think this country is so terrible, you're going to go around apologizing for it, like Obama did. When Obama first got elected, he went on a worldwide tour saying, oh, I'm sorry America sucks so bad, but I'm in charge now. Exactly. I'm going to give you whatever you want, right? Let's not forget, the issue we're having with Iran right now is Barack Obama's fault. Now, mind you, there was plenty of presidents before him and plenty after him, but this was Barack Obama's fault mostly because he's the one who made the Iran nuclear deal, which was we're going to give you billions of dollars to not develop nuclear weapons, and we're not going to hold you accountable for not developing nuclear weapons. And what do you know? They developed nuclear weapons. And then he gave them all this money, and Joe Biden tried to do the exact same thing, which they used to fund terror. So everything happening in the Middle East right now is all Barack Obama and Joe Biden's fault, and using your taxpayer dollars in order to do it. So between the apology tour and the Remaking America, that's your motivation.
I guess so, but there is a more extreme identity behind it somewhere, because why wouldn't we have heard about this when the auto pen was being used without, the proper consideration? We understand now that Biden probably
super
has
easy,
some really terrible things going on.
Let's just remember this, Steve.
I want to know.
Let's just remember
where they come from.
Where they comes from is they had power. How many absolute power corrupts absolutely? They had power. And they said it doesn't matter if the dudes. Hey, you ever see the movie Dave? You ever see the movie Dave?
Not Dave.
Okay, so Dave is with Kevin Kline. Kevin Kline is he's a president impersonator. Okay, and what happens is the president has a stroke, and the people who are behind the throne are so desperate to stay in power that rather than tell everybody the president had a stroke, if they tell everybody the president had a stroke, there's no movie. You just bring in the vice president, who they didn't like very much. Tell me if any of this sounds familiar. They don't like the vice president, so what they do is they replace the president with Kevin Kline, the body double, who then turns out to be an okay president, and people like him, and now they don't know how to get rid of him, so they have to sabotage his presidency. Does that sound familiar at all?
No.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah, maybe. I guess, propping up Biden to be the fall president, he's going to make all these bad decisions. And then when we come back swinging with, a big Republican red wave, and then they're hoping all of those bad decisions make it so that, I don't know, that we have, for whatever reason, a blue wave in return, because that's how our process usually goes. We usually have a blue wave and then we have a red wave and going back and forth. And so I'm really, really, really hoping that what ends up happening over the next 4 years, I mean, I know where a lot of Americans are on board with that. I really hope that we stay that way, that we have the course, set out for the future, that we don't lean back onto whatever happens in the next 4 years, that there's suddenly a bigger shift in the
That's
other
what we got to
the
hope
side.
for. That's what the Democrats are trying to do right now. The Republicans
Yeah,
are trying to
that's
hold
why
them
I think that all that
accountable,
stuff-
but that's the thing. Like, some things got to get fixed. Like, Trump's got, I don't know, maybe 2 months to turn around the economy completely. Otherwise, we're going to have big trouble in the midterms. Steven, good conversation. Appreciate the call. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, what is going on at Dodger Stadium? What is going on with the Dodgers, and what does this have to do with what's going on at our border? We'll give you all the details when we come back, but first, Todd Herman's Daily Thoughtcast right now on the Ari Hoffman Show. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Don't forget, coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card and tickets to the Bremerton Air Show. Who knows what you might see at the air show? We know we're going to see P-51 Mustangs, but you might see a B-2 bomber. Maybe freshly returned from the Middle East. You never know what's going to be there. It's going to be awesome. I'm very excited for it. So make sure you're listening at 5:45 for your chance to win. Always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI left on your dial. Always right on the issues. You can also stream us at KVI.com, download the KVI app, and, of course, subscribe to us on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. I hate the Dodgers. I actually hate the Dodgers. Do I hate them more than the Yankees? No, but I was raised to hate the Dodgers by my father, who's from Brooklyn. And the Dodgers abandoned New York for money. Walter O'Malley, my father has nothing nice to say about Walter O'Malley, the man who moved the Dodgers from Brooklyn to California. So the Dodgers are not talked about in my house, especially after 1988 when they beat my Mets for the playoffs to go on and win the World Series. But the Dodgers did something worse this week. They're ticking off America. So according to the Daily Wire, the Los Angeles Dodgers say they turned away ICE agents hoping to use their grounds as a staging area for enforcement operations as left-wing protesters gathered out in front of Dodger Stadium. The Major League Baseball franchise issued a statement denying claims from left-wing activists that it was allowing immigration and customs enforcement agents to use the stadium grounds. Quote, this morning, ICE agents came to Dodger Stadium and requested permission to access the parking lots, the Dodgers posted on social media. They were denied entry to the grounds by the organization. Tonight's game will be played as scheduled. The statement came as left-wing organizations shared images of what appeared to be federal law enforcement vehicles on the stadium grounds and gathered for a protest out front of the park. Dozens of ICE vehicles posted up at Dodger Stadium Gate E. Folks are suspecting they may be bringing people here after conducting raids, one left-wing group said on social media, calling law enforcement agents fascist pigs. Local media similarly reported that dozens of ICE agents have been seen staging on the stadium grounds before the Dodgers requested that they leave. The same activist group shared videos online of leftist protesters gathered at one of the entrances to the park with a row of Los Angeles police officers preventing them from entering the park. Some protesters directed their ire at the baseball franchise for allegedly cooperating with federal law enforcement agents. The Department of Homeland Security clarified in a statement that Customs and Border Protection agents, not ICE agents, were briefly in the parking lot and that they were not present and not related to any enforcement action. So, for example, local Seattle police sometimes hang out in the parking lots of our synagogues. Why? Because they're parking lots and they want somewhere they can hang out and chill while they're waiting for calls and they're out in the neighborhood. There's nothing wrong with that. So it looks like the Border Patrol agents were doing the exact same thing here. They were not conducting ICE operations. However, I will say this. How'd you pay for the stadium? Dodgers? Did taxpayers fund that thing at all? Because if they did, I don't think it's wrong for you to allow federal agents to use your parking lot when there's not a game that day. I'm pretty sure you guys didn't pay for that stadium all by yourself because I don't know any sports team that actually did. The protest at the park comes with sustained public unrest in Southern California, with left-wing rioters attacking police officers and destroying property as organizers distributed riot gear to the agitators. Some protesters even gathered outside of hotels housing ICE agents as they called for federal agents to be kicked out of their rooms. A local branch of the Democratic Party even shared the location of ICE agents and mobilized protesters to their hotels. Now, this would have been bad enough. This would have been bad enough that all this was going on down at Dodger Stadium. But then the Dodgers had to make it worse. In partnership with the city of Los Angeles, the Dodgers have committed $1 million toward direct financial assistance for families of immigrants impacted by recent events in the region. Additional community efforts to be announced in the coming days. So now you can be an illegal immigrant criminal, get arrested for whatever the case may be, and the Dodgers, in partnership with the city of Los Angeles, will give you money for your groceries, for your legal defense fund, for what? You just say $1 million in direct financial assistance. You know, they told us our whole lives crime doesn't pay. It looks like it does. Now the baseball team is going to be giving you money. Hey, got a question for you guys. You're going to be giving any money to, I don't know, the family of Lake and Riley? How about family of the Rachel Morin's family? You going to be giving them any money? You going to be helping them out at all? Or is this just for illegal immigrants? Man, as if I need more reasons to hate the Dodgers. In a week where I'm mad at the Mets, the Dodgers give me more reasons to hate the Dodgers than hate the Mets. Unbelievable. Now, mind you, The Supreme Court did have their ruling this week, or last night rather, I should say, that, of course, because it's law, President Trump can co-opt the National Guard from Gavin Newsom because he's not doing the job, and President Trump wants to keep Los Angelenos safe. Now, the Supreme Court is actually ending or getting close to the end of their session, and this is when they usually have the big rulings. So the Associated Press has a great write-up, and I don't say that lightly for the Associated Press because I think they're garbage most of the time, on some of the high-profile cases that are still out there. So Trump's birthright citizenship order, which has been blocked by lower courts. So we'll see if that one's going to go through. That one's going to be interesting. The court seems likely to side with Maryland parents in a religious rights case over LGBTQ storybooks in public schools. That's one. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you've seen this video trending on social media today from Libs of TikTok about Bellevue public schools. I don't know if you saw this thing. A kindergarten teacher is apparently brainwashing her kids with drag shows and pride stuff and bragging about it on social. Kindergarteners. Hang on. Let me change this for a minute, okay? For any lefties that listen to our show that are like, Ari, that's a little Bud Light bigotry, fine, no problem. What if a teacher was talking about Jesus in class all the time in a public school? Would you go nuts? How about if somebody was talking about Judaism all the time in a public school? How about if they were saying, for the people that really don't like me, what if they were saying, hey, here's an Israeli flag. We're going to make Israeli flags in class, and let me tell you all about the Israeli flag and what it means and what it symbolizes. How would that go down? How would that go over? You'd probably lose your minds. All right, how about the more moderates of you for a second? What if the teacher goes, this is the Iranian flag. This is the Palestine flag. Yeah, what do you think would happen there? So these are some things that are before the court. There's some others. Justices are weighing a Texas law aimed at blocking kids from seeing online pornography. That's actually a freedom of speech case. That's kind of like the People versus Larry Flynt. For those of you who saw the movie, same kind of deal. That's a discussion about that. Except the question is, if you have an age where they can't see it, can you put those restrictions on the kids when they're underage? And I think they're going to hold yes for 18 and under, no for anybody older than that, according to the law. But these are big cases. These are big cases that are before the Supreme Court, and I'm curious how they end up, especially the birthright citizenship one. We're all watching that one, but the birthright citizenship one isn't about birthright citizenship. I can see them splitting the baby on that one. What it's really about is about federal judicial power. So can these federal judges who are activists, can they just say, oh, our ruling goes for the entire country? That's part of this. What I think they're going to do is keep birthright citizenship, but say, no, these federal judges, you want to make a ruling for New York, you want to make a ruling for Chicago, or whatever it is, you can do that, but it doesn't mean you can do it for the entire country. I think that's something we're going to get out of this case, and I think they're going to deny the Trump administration's position on birthright citizenship. So we'll be watching this one very, very closely. When we come back, my friends, Lars Larson will be unleashed after a few week break hiatus. And then after that, don't forget, we have our our good news giveaway. Your chance to win fantabulous prizes, your last chance to win tickets to the Bremerton Air Show. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.